Hi guys, welcome to Creations by Karen. Today I'm going to show you step by step how to make an outdoor Yardzee set, similar to Yahtzee, but for outside. So let's get going. You're going to need some things before you get started to make this game. You're going to need some, I would say probably a 6 or 8 foot 4x4 posts. You can get them at any lumber store, I guess. I get mine at Home Depot here in London, Ontario, Canada. And this is what it looks like, when you cut it into 4x4 squares. So that's what you want to do. Actually, it's not totally 4x4. I think it's like 3 3/4 or 3 5/8 posts. So anyways, you're going to cut them into squares. Be very careful when you're getting your posts, all right? So this is what you don't want to have. You don't want to have a split in your post. Because that's just garbage. You can't use this if you get a post with some splits in it. So what I always say is go ahead and go through the posts and choose one that has no flaws, like a split. When you cut your posts, they're going to have rough edges. So it's really important that you sand these really well. I do probably 10 sets at a time. So I have a power sander that I just run this over. And it does take a while to do that. That's probably the hardest part of making this, is sanding your blocks. And you want to make sure that you do a really good job, because if you're using exterior paint, which is what I'm going to be using, you only have to put one coat on if you really sand well. Okay, so that's key, sanding it really well. And I've done one so you can see that I've really sanded it. It's very smooth. The paint will stick to it. And I also round the corners because if you're going to be using these for kids to play outside with, you don't want to really have any sharp edges, right? So I've gone ahead and curved all of my edges on this particular square, all right, which is all of my squares. I curve the edges. That's just something I do. It's all about safety, right? So after you've got them all sanded, cut and sanded, the next thing you're going to do is paint them. Now, I'm very particular about my paint. I only will use an outdoor paint doing this. And there's all sorts of different kinds of outdoor paints that you can get. I really like to get my paint at Deluxe Paint. So this is what I get. It's the Diamond Exterior paint. And it works really well. Usually one coat works for this. Sometimes 2 coats for the dots that are going to go on them. But I suggest a really good quality outdoor paint. That's important. So for this particular set that I'm making, I use the red. So this is what I used. It's the Deluxe Exterior Diamond Outdoor Paint, right? So, and I always get it in a big bucket because I make so many of them. So once again, I can't reiterate this enough. Please use a good quality outdoor paint. Once again, Deluxe works for me. So this is what it looks like with one coat on it. And that's like awesome, right? One coat, it's well sanded, or the edges are curved, and I was only able to really worry about one coat of paint, which was great. And then the next thing you're going to do is dot. Oh, and it's really important, must iterate, that you have to allow time for the paint to set and cure. So I like to leave at least 24 hours. And when I'm making I'm painting my blocks, I paint like half of it one day, and then the next day do the other half, right? So that's 2 days kind of making your blocks just painted. So then I'm going to dot them, all right? So just because I didn't want to impinge on a copyright, if there's specific copyright for Yardzee, I didn't want to put the dots exactly the way a dice that comes in a Yardzee set is. So I just kind of really randomly did the dots. So I have actually put my paint into a small container to make it a little bit easier. And then I use, of course, the top to dot my paint. Now I got a pouncer. I get these at Michael's. And I used 1/2-inch pouncer to do this, and it just gives a nice round sort of circle when you're putting on them. So I'm going to do the top one of this particular square. And so I've just loaded paint onto my pouncer, and I'm just going to come in right into the middle. I'm going to start with number 1, and I'm just going to come into the middle, and I like to do 1 and 2 on the rough edges, right? So then I just kind of go around and around and around until I'm happy with the size of that. And then just maybe do another coat. And this can be very time consuming, but you know what? I like things to look good. Now I think this would be a really great craft for kids to do. Everybody could get their own square and they can paint them, and you know, something they can be proud of. So that's what the number 1 looks like on my square that I've pounced. And of course I'm going to let it dry, right? So you're going to do it. So you're going to put like 1, I put 2 on the bottom, and then I do 3, 4, 5, and 6 around the outside, just pouncing on the dots on it, right? Now I've done a lot of different things to try to make this work. You know, I used my Cricut and made circles and tried to get them on and affix them on. They just don't stay. So the best thing I say to do this is just paint them on. It takes a little bit of time, but you'll be much happier in the long run just painting them on. Okay, so that's what your square will look like when you pounce the circles on them. All right. And then once I've got them all done and they're completely dry, if I have to go over any, I will do that. Once again, make sure it's totally dry. And then I'm going to put a Varathane finish on them. Just because this is an outside game, it's going to get left outside. And I want them to stand up really well. So by putting a Varathane on them, you're not going to have to worry about it. Just make sure you use an exterior Varathane. Any kind works well. Just make sure it's for outside. Okay? So that's what that is. So I like to always have my sets come with something to throw them in. So you shake it up and throw it out. And what I like to use, and I can find them here in Canada, easy, is these buckets. And I get these at my local dollar store. So it's just a square, and it works really well because you can put all the Yardzee squares in them and just shake it off and go. But what I really wanted to do was kind of make it kind of look good. So using my Cricut, I did this Yardzee sign, all right? And I'm just going to fix this to my bucket, and I'll show you how I do that. So I just place this down. I've already had it cut out on my Cricut, and I've weeded out all the, you know, the A and the R and the D and the E. And then I'm just going to take some tracing tape, and then I'm going to place it over top of it like this. And then I'm just going to take my Cricut device, and I want to rub really kind of hard on this so that the Cricut Yardzee will affix to this transfer tape. Just like this. Take a little time to do it. Don't rush yourself. And then you're just going to pull this transfer tape off, and you could see that the letters have come off onto the transfer tape, just like this. Okay? And then I'm going to fix this to my bucket. So what I do is I place it down in front of me, and I just place it down on top of the bucket. Make sure it's straight before you make it secure. So this is what it looks like once I put it on my bucket. Now I've got to make sure that that's going to stay on. So once again, I take my tool and I just rub down on top of the transfer tape, just like this, just to make sure that it's really well affixed to it. This is a new piece of transfer tape, so it really wants to stick to it. So it might be a tricky thing getting it off, but just take your time. So So taking it off sometimes can be a challenge. I always start at the top and I gently roll the transfer tape down. And if you've fixed it really well, it won't pull it off, right? By coming straight down. Straight down. And I just put this back onto the original. And this is what it looks like once it's fixed. And that's not going to come off. I use permanent vinyl that goes on it. Once again, vinyl, it sticks really well. Good luck if you want to try to take it off. It's not going to happen, okay? So that's how that works. Now, I was able to download a score sheet for the Yardzee set. And when I make my Yardzee sets, I just affix the score sheet to, I put usually 5 or 6 on, to just a clipboard that I get at the dollar store, and then I let this go with the Yardzee set itself. I encourage people that buy these from me to laminate one, and then you don't have to worry about running out of sheets. So laminating one, good idea. I want to make these cost effective when I sell them so that they're not paying an outrageous amount of money for them. So I tell them to do that themselves, okay? And then this, it actually fits really well. So it fits in your bucket like this. And then you can put all your completed squares inside. And there you have it. That is an outdoor Yardzee set. Yardzee, we're going to call it. And it's great for kids. It's great for adults. They always need something to do when they're outside. It's also really good for if you're having a family reunion or an outdoor wedding. People can do this while they're waiting for dinner. Really, for any celebration, you can have a couple of these there, and the kids can play and the adults can play. And it's a really good outdoor game to play. All right. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Be sure to subscribe when I upload videos every Thursday and every Sunday. All sorts of different crafts for your home and gardens. And I look forward to seeing you then. Until then, see you soon. Bye now.